Destiny 2. Wow, how far we have come. Now, I don't really want to make this a very in-depth video because I don't really want to ramble too hard about this game and franchise because I've been out of the loop since the final shape. Since the release of the final shape, I did the raid and then that was pretty much about it. Mainly this will just be a video talking about my personal experience and I guess thoughts on the future of this hated and beloved franchise. I, like many, have dumped far too many hours into this game that it probably deserves. This game has been out for the better half of a decade now and it's been quite the roller coaster to say the least. Now before I get into my thoughts and opinions on just the game overall, I just kind of wanted to go through the timeline of Destiny 2 as a whole. I feel like this will help me articulate my opinions a little bit better by just laying it all out in front of me. Now to get started, let's talk about the base game release. To say that it was underwhelming was a massive understatement, especially coming off the Rise of Iron DLC, which was pretty fucking hot in my opinion. Now, this being the base game came with a new story. Now, let me tell you, when I say this, and this may be a hot take, but the story of Destiny, at least from what we are shown in-game, has never been that great to me, especially when we look at Bungie's old franchise, that being Halo. I don't care if you're the biggest Destiny cockrider out there, if you say that Destiny's story was better than the original Halo story, then you were just completely fucking wrong. Now, when it comes to the lore, that might be a completely different thing. I don't know too much about Destiny's lore as a whole. I do know some things here and there, which Destiny's lore is very, very cool, but this is just coming from an in-game perspective. Now, I'm not going to bore you with Destiny 2's original campaign's plotline, but what I am going to say is that it was lacking and a little bit disappointing from what I was actually expecting when Destiny 2 got announced. And the only reason I say that is because I feel like they learned so much from Destiny 1, from its origin story being very, very lackluster to it becoming a very nice and fleshed out game. You know, you had the Taken King expansion, which is still regarded as probably one of the best DLCs of all time. And then you had the Rise of Iron DLC, which was a very good DLC as well. Not as good as the Taken King, but you think that they would learn a lot along the way, right? And so when Destiny 2's original game released, it just wasn't that good and it was lacking and a bit disappointing, but I will say that it was better than Destiny 1's original story. At least I was able to understand what the hell was going on in Destiny 2, unlike Destiny 1.
Who are you?
Why have you been watching us?
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
So with Destiny 2's story just not being that great, at least at the base game, the end game was just completely disappointing. It lacked an end game that the community needed to keep the game alive and well. It also felt like the end game was completely dumbed down due to the horrible sandbox decision that Bungie made, that being the double primary and special as your heavy. Now, I'm sure some of you guys remember that horrible sandbox, but to go on top of this, they doubled and tripled down on that with Curse of Osiris and the Warmind expansion, furthering this shitty ass sandbox experience. Now, I will say there were some banger ass weapons that came out of Warmind, but that seems to be one of the top highlights from year one, which is saying a lot. The game needed some oomph, some juice, something, because Destiny was fucking dying, man. And I'm pretty sure that some of the devs that were working at Bungie at the time even thought that Bungie was going to close their doors because of the state that Destiny was in. That's how bad things truly were. But then it happened. Forsaken dropped. Now, this DLC needs no introduction, but this was a campaign that was actually fucking great from head to toe. A sandbox that was reverted back to the original Destiny 1 format and an endgame that challenged even some of the biggest nerds in the game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie, and this was probably one of the bigger mistakes that I've made in terms of my gaming career. But I checked out of the game around Warmind time, so I didn't really get to experience what Forsaken was really like. But from what I did hear is that it was probably one of the best DLCs anybody's ever played. I came back during the DLC to follow that being Shadowkeep, and let me tell you, it was not that great in my opinion. It just seemed like a very, very lazy follow-up from what we just got, and all they really did was just take a Destiny 1 area that already existed and branched it into a whole new DLC, a fully fledged price DLC. I don't remember the cost of that shit, but I think it was like $50 or something. Shit, man, I got half-baked Destiny 1 right off the bat with the Moon Destination, which is what Shadowkeep was, for $50 back in the day, and that thing had multiple destinations. But anyways, going back to the Moon Destination, yes, they added some new areas to the moon, but I found myself grinding through all the content that I missed from Forsaken rather than the new content that was actually released. The new content felt repetitive, lazy, and overall not engaging, with the introduction of the Battle Pass, which for anybody who lives under a rock is a Fortnite thing that everyone and their mother started to rip off. We also got a new dungeon, which was okay, and a raid that I'm pretty sure the vast majority of people hated. The only thing that really came out of that thing was fucking Divinity and the quest quest to get that thing was turbo ass. But overall, I was excited to see what Bungie was cooking up at the end of the day because I was back. I was excited to actually be playing the game, and it seemed like there was an actual plan at this point rather than just running around with our heads cut off. The next thing that dropped was Beyond Light. This expansion was a mixed bag in my opinion. I could be biased because I did grind the fuck out of Forsaken content mixed with the Shadowkeep content, trying to get caught back up, trying to get the best rolls and best armor I could for the new expansion. To say that this led to some burnout was an understatement, but there were a lot of good things for Destiny players to enjoy, that being the location itself. Europa was gorgeous from head to toe. The story was actually pretty decent as far as Destiny goes. The sandbox was great with the new additions of guns, especially the raid weapons that came out of this DLC, and a new class, that being Stasis. Now, I don't know everybody's opinion, but personally I had a lot of fun with the Stasis class when it first came out. It just felt new and refreshing, and it was the only thing that we had new that wasn't Solar, Void, or Arc. Now, this next thing is probably the worst thing that Bungie could have ever done to their game, or probably just their studio in general. The DCV, the Destiny Content Vault, the fucking boogeyman of the gamers that sit in their mom's basement playing Destiny 2 all day. And if you spent any time in year one, this was a massive spit in the face and a kick in the nuts because it wiped out literally everything. All those guns you had, gone. Armor, gone. And most importantly, all the content that you paid for got washed down the drain. Io, Titan, Mars, Mercury, and the fucking Leviathan, that stupid ship. Many raids, such as Scourge of the Past, Leviathan, Crown of Sorrows, the Red War campaign that I was talking about earlier, Warmind, and Curse of Osiris campaigns, all gone. Which actually shout out to them for removing the Curse of Osiris campaign. That shit was buns. Jokes aside, this was a terrible thing for them to do and something that Bungie still takes flack for in today's age. Now moving on to year 5, that being Witch Queen. This was a great expansion with the introduction of build crafting, custom perks for weapons, and a new weapon type, the glaive. The campaign was fantastic and had a great location to go alongside of it. The location felt very content rich and the activities to go alongside of it were very, very good. This almost felt like the Forsaken drop for a lot of people, and it felt like my personal Forsaken DLC because I quit the game before Forsaken actually released, like I said earlier. Overall, this was a great time to jump back into the game, and I don't really have anything bad to say about it. And just like that, after we went up, we had to come crashing back down with the stinker that is Lightfall. This was supposed to be the finale in the series. This was supposed to be the final shape, but ended up just being complete filler content. The story started out pretty decent at first, but then it took a big, horrible turn for the worst. Reintroducing a big final boss named Callus. Ironically, this is a character ripped straight out of DCV from year 1. If you didn't play year 1, he was the final raid boss of the original Leviathan raid, or I guess his robot was. So I guess you could say this was Callus's big introduction, which Callus is actually a pretty big character within Destiny's whole storyline. So like giving him this treatment within the campaign was just horrible. The raid was extremely easy, and even my bot ass managed to do this thing duo flawless. A raid is a 6-man activity for anybody who doesn't know, and I did this with 2 people, and I've even seen some people do this completely solo, just flawlessly, like with no issue. So to say that this raid was a complete joke would be a complete understatement. I feel like the only redeeming factor that actually came from this DLC would be probably Strand, which was another subclass that got introduced. We finally move on to the final shape. And all I have to say about this is, well, it was great. It was honestly a great send-off for this whole franchise. We got to kill the big baddie, that being the Witness. Great campaign, great raid, etc. Now this is where I stopped playing the game. From my understanding is that there has been 2 releases, one that happened earlier this year and one that released recently. I am only going to give one opinion, and that is towards the most recent release, that being the Star Wars collab. And man, I have to say this, that is so fucking lame. I love Star Wars, at least the old Star Wars. I used to be obsessed with it when I was a kid, and I still kind of am obsessed with it nowadays. But man, this seems so much like Fortnite. Just seems like a pure cash grab, and just seems so unoriginal. You have this huge expansive lore, and you decided to not reach into any of it at all. Like, come on, man. We're going with Star Wars for a whole DLC, a full-fledged DLC. No, that just ain't it, man. This honestly tells me everything I need to know on where Destiny 2 is as a game right now, selling out their game sold just to get a few extra bucks. Now again, I'm not going to sit here and just say that this DLC is good, or if it's not good, because I haven't played it, and I don't plan on playing it. But if you've played it, Let me know down in the comments how it is. I'm very, very curious how this whole collaboration is going to turn out. Like, are we going to be fighting fucking stormtroopers in it? Like, what are we going to be doing? No, before those 2 DLCs released, the Star Wars one and the previous one, which I don't even know what the hell the name of it is, and I'm not even going to go look it up because I don't care enough, because I feel like I'm just so checked out of this franchise right now. And I think a lot of people are right there with me. Destiny just continues to be a roller coaster with their new expansions, and like a lot of people jumped off the train when Lightfall released, after being probably the worst expansion ever released by Bungie. Well shit, besides Curse of Osiris, but Lightfall was truly that bad. It really left a bad taste in people's mouth that they didn't even consider finishing the 10+ year story that came out with the final shape the next year after Lightfall released. Which, can I say I blame them? No, of course not. When you look at the roller coaster of ups and downs, how could you? It's like playing Russian roulette with your money when you think about pre-ordering these expansions these days. When you look at some of these downfalls of this franchise, it becomes pretty eye-opening as to why people are jumping ship. Now, there's a combination of a few things. Some of the things that I just talked about with the whole history of Destiny 2 as a whole, and then some things that were going on in the background. One of these things is being a shift to the live service model. Many players, including myself, see this as probably one of the worst things besides probably the DCV that has come to this franchise. It created a reliance on repetitive grinding, a constant pressure to deliver new content, and a pattern of rebuilding systems instead of expanding on what was already worked on in the game and what worked. Another thing is the repetitive gameplay loop and a weak-ass endgame. A common complaint is the lack of meaningful, lasting goals, frequent content reuse, and limited endgame variety that has been contributed to my fatigue and other people's fatigue and long-term engagement issues from all of us, leading to the mass strain among the player base. Another thing, and it's a thing that I just went over when I was talking about the timeline of Destiny 2 as a whole, is just expansions not meeting a good quality standard. Expansions such as Curse of Osiris, Warmind, and Lightfall. Personally, I thought Warmind was okay, but it was definitely part of that year 1 expansion. But these expansions were widely criticized for offering just little substance, innovation, which just fueled complete disappointment for the entire community. I would say that Lightfall maybe had the most because it added Strand, but still it was complete shit compared to the likes of Forsaken and Witch Queen, which were the same price, by the way, and offered way more content than Lightfall ever did. Another thing for the community is that Bungie has horrible communication issues, and I don't think they're ever going to fix that. Bungie has often been called out for confusing and ineffective communication, for appearing unresponsive to community concerns, for making decisions that oppose player feedback. It's just the truth. I mean, when was the last time that Bungie actually did something that the community really, really wanted in the game? Took player feedback seriously, because I can't remember a time in my life that they ever did that. And the biggest fucking thing that Bungie has ever done that's super shitty is just content vaulting. It feels like actual robbery to my bank account and your bank account because we spent money on that content. Bungie removed large portions of previously paid content by you and I, including the original Destiny 2 Red War campaign, which we've already covered, and several expansions after that, and just is super controversial. It intended to control the file space or whatever, but that's complete bullshit. Figure something else out because you're just taking people's money and running away with it. Now, with all this being said, I just don't feel like it's worth the cost of entry anymore. That's why I'm not trying out these new DLCs. It just feels like I get constantly shot in the foot whenever I do buy one of these DLCs. It just feels like we're paying $100 a year just to do a second full-time job, from repetitive tasks to being spammed by Eververse advertisements to pay more money than you already are. It honestly feels like a bad fever dream sometimes looking back at it now that I don't play the game. It's like I was paying basically just to do a grind. That's all I was doing, a second full-time job. And even if you are paying that cost of entry, how do you know it'll be safe? It seems like every year there's a new chase for loot, which yes, I get it. It's a looter shooter. That's kind of the point, but what the fuck is the point in that when the loot you spent 20 hours grinding out goes to shit the following expansion? It's crazy because it almost feels like it's pay to lose. We spend so much money in that game and it's just a wasted time at the end of the day because you're just going to lose your loot regardless. I mean, if you spent hours grinding it out. Speaking of the whole money aspect about paying for things, I wanted to talk about how Destiny 2 is just not an attractable game anymore in terms of the live service market. I mean, look around at the catalog. You have games such as where the winds meet. Fortnite and our creators taking over everything nowadays. I hate using Fortnite as an example, but if you look at how content is fed in that game, it's pretty consumer friendly. I know, crazy. But everything besides cosmetics are completely free in that game with consistent content flowing in. That's something that a lot of games lack in today's age. Even with probably the biggest game on the block nowadays, art creators, yes, there are cosmetics that you pay for, but you pay one solid price and you are getting all the content there. You'll get the base game, which the base game is very, very replayable for anybody who's played it, which I'm sure you have at this point, and future releases that come with the game, which, by the way, Art Creators is the same price of this new Destiny expansion that just came out, that being the Star Wars one. And I'm not too sure about where the winds meet. It's something that just recently popped up on my radar, but it's a completely free to play game that came out of China, and the content looks honestly rock solid. Go check it out if you haven't already. It looks super fun. But anyways, back to Destiny. This is just not the case with Destiny. It's very, very anti-consumer. Destiny is almost treated as like a fucking subscription service nowadays. Just to access the roller coaster that is Destiny's content cycle, you're gonna have to pay now twice a year from my understanding. You're gonna have to pay 2 times a year to get access to the new content. And on top of your very expensive subscription service, you get to get spammed with Eververse ads as well. Now I want to talk about what can save this franchise. The only thing that can save this thing is Destiny 3. Agree or disagree, I don't care. I think this thing needs a full revamp. Even with a new launch, with all the hype that it'll gain, I feel like this will still be an uphill battle at this point given the negative reception surrounding this game. But nonetheless, I still want to give you a wish list for what I want in Destiny 3. And when I say wish list, I want to give you kind of a realistic wish list, not anything too fucking crazy. I just want to give some key components to what I think would make Destiny 3 actually function correctly. One of the biggest things, and I feel like it's one of the biggest asks in gaming nowadays, is I would just love an overall complete game with a clear direction from the start. I know it sounds absolutely crazy given it's 2025. Feels like nowadays, especially in the live service market, we can never get a complete game anymore. All we get is drip fed bullshit that gets fed to us painfully slowly. This is especially the case with Destiny. I'd love to see them shine away from this. They can keep the live service aspect all they want, but I want them to own it. If you're going to gouge the hell out of us with microtransactions, then I want you to deliver hard on the content that we are paying for yearly. I want all original concepts, new factions, new locations, non-reskinned weapons, which they are very known for, by the way. With all this, we need expansive new areas and full-blown campaigns. I don't care if this puts a strain on the studio, because if you're going to charge the full price of a game year to year, I want a new game year to year to get the most out of my money and the most out of my time especially. Another thing I would like is there to be no DCV. Please, if I pay for the content, keep it there. And I'm actually going to go a little bit past the DCV. I just want all my content to stay completely relevant. I'm so sick and tired of content that I paid for just to become basically relevant the following year. I feel like all this leads to is just grinding the new activity and getting the new weapons, getting the new armor, getting the new everything. But I feel like this just leads to a bland ass sandbox where everyone is just using the same shit. I would like if they would revamp the weapons and armor year to year to keep the content relevant. I would also like old content to be a part of the grind. I don't know what they call it now, but when I was playing, it was called powerful gear. I want all raids to be powerful gear. It will give extra incentive for players to go back and play the game, leading to more playtime on the game, leading to more engagement with everything else. And overall, just keep the content that you paid for completely relevant in the game's life cycle. I think another thing that the game desperately needs is a new faction, or I guess new factions. We've been in the same constant cycle of factions that basically released with the game back in 2014. The only 2 factions that we've gotten since the 2014 launch, that being Destiny 1's launch by the way, were the Taken and the Scorn. Not a whole lot in almost the 11-12 year stretch that this franchise has been alive. I think something new would add a completely different dynamic to the game and add a fresh layer of paint that the franchise has desperately needed. One last thing is more in-depth stories, which they have been getting better at through Destiny's life cycle, but I'm sick of the missions where I have to go scan the ghost on something. It's crazy that that's what some of the missions actually are. It's like, you guys are the people who made Halo. I get that this studio is a fragment of what it was, but still, we need to try to regains some of that magic. Anyways, I want to hear what you guys have to say. What are your thoughts on the game? What would you like from this franchise going forward? Drop a comment below on those thoughts. Like and subscribe if you're new. We're a newer channel covering, I don't know, a wide spectrum of things, whatever piques my interest, I guess. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.